Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to have a little bit of a fun one here. We're going to have a triple Shadow team with all the starter Pokemon from the Johto region. Of course, with the newly buffed Feraligatr, this team might actually be a little bit better than you expect. And honestly, it did start off pretty bad for me when I tried to play this team. But in hindsight, and also like after playing a little bit, it was my issue. Like literally, like a lot of games that I played back then, you're gonna see mainly like games that I played later on, were issues where I just completely misplayed the game, where I just didn't go for the right move or like the right choice in general, and lost the game because of this. But the longer I played this team, the better was it. Actually, I just finished the set as well, which was a 4-1, and the set before was a 3-2. And for playing a very, very spicy, not meta team, you don't see Meganium or especially the Typhlosion at all in the Go Battle League. I'm so happy about this. So this team was actually a lot of fun, and you're going to see some insane sweeps. Honestly, of course, the best Pokemon of this team is going to be the Feraligatr, the only meta Pokemon of it. But honestly, the Typhlosion was so much fun. Like, you're going to see it here as well today. This Pokemon was absolutely insane. Here we're going to be able to go for the full farm, and of course we're going to be at -2 defense. And as we are very, very squishy, it's going to be a little bit tricky. But yeah, the opponent makes a great play, catching the move onto the Umbreon. At least that's what they thought, but they actually had to go for a charge move anyway immediately, so it doesn't really matter. We can still go for another Blast Burn here, going to do a ton of damage against the opponent's Machamp. They're 1 HP, and we still have also 1 HP, what one move stored, and so we can move on into the next game. Next opponent, we're going to encounter Giratina. This is going to be a very tricky one in general. Dragon-type Pokemon going to be tricky. This is going to be nothing new for elemental teams, as yeah, basically Dragon-type Pokemon were designed to beat those Starter-type Pokemon. And so here we're going to get a boost immediately onto the opponent, and they decide to use a shield. Couldn't start any worse for this battle, but this battle I think is still going to be really insane, which you're going to see later on. The opponent is going to go into that Charger Bug, hard walling us even further, as we can go for one Hydro Cannon. Getting the shield from the opponent is kind of nice, especially as we're going to be able to still reach another Hydro Cannon. The opponent goes for a straight farm down, and I would imagine they're going to go straight into the Exeter, and so I decide to let this move go through against my Typhlosion, and I was correct. It's going to be the resisted Exeter, and we can go for the full farm down as the opponent swaps back into the Giratina. It does not matter, as Typhlosion is going to be able to reach another charge move. Blast Burn is going to completely destroy them, and it comes the opponent's Cresselia. And what we're gonna do here is, if the opponent gets the boost, if the opponent hardwalls us, I don't care, we gonna go for the BM. And honestly, Typhlosion destroyed the entire opponent here. Like, those games were just so much fun to play. Like, literally, it was like so much fun to play something different to what everybody else is using as well. Here, of course, Feraligatr still is something very commonly used, but we're going to run Crunch, by the way, for potential of Lantern as a Pokemon that we're going to bait out, especially as we have a Grass type in the lead. We're going to see here that it's, of course, not really ideal against an Altaria, but we can still kind of deal with it, as we can still go for another charge move here. Our Hydro Cannon is going to get shielded, which I'm totally okay with, as I'm not going to get to another one. It's going to be fine because we still have our Typhlosion, and I was like thinking maybe Typhlosion is actually going to be able to still sweep this game, as Solar Beam would be able to destroy something like the Azumarill, but we have to hope that there's something in the back that we can deal with the Meganium. It is not too bad that it's going to be a Machamp, but if we would have been a normal Meganium, this matchup would have been so much better. And I have to say, worst Pokemon of this team is, in my opinion, the Meganium. Like, they're all, like, honestly, like, just based on facts, I think it would be the Typhlosion, but I feel like Meganium, just like the extra shadow damage and whatever doesn't really help it. You kind of want to have the bulk on it. And so here, sadly, we're going to lose this battle just barely, but it would have been cool to Solar Beam the Azumarill, but we can move on to the next opponent. Great lead for us. Meganium gonna love this, as the opponent is going to swap out into a Jonkus. Stayed in for a little bit longer as well, most likely. But I'm just going to decide to go into my Typhlosion. Decide to basically have a very neutral matchup here, while still being able to just get at least 2 shields from the opponent, or they're just going to let this move go through, and I will be able to leave with a Blast Burn stored, which I can now fire off against the opponent's Swampert. And it's going to be even better now, as the Blast Burn is going to decide to get shielded here, which is totally fine. Plan, but we can still reach another one, forcing another shield or the KO with Typhlosion. Typhlosion going to town. Again, this Pokemon was just absolutely wild. Here we can now swap it into our Meganium. I can let this move go through. Like, usually they don't run Sludge Wave. They're going to go for the Hydro Cannon. Totally fine for me. And they're going to have in the back the Wigglytuff, allowing me to now swap out into my Feraligatr. And of course, I know we would be able to outspeed them and win the game. So they decide to forfeit. The next opponent, this is kind of the issue for this team for sure. Fire-type leads are very tricky. What I actually would recommend you to go for, though, when you encounter a Fire-type lead is, like, if they run Incinerate, go for 2 fast moves first with Meganium. Don't swap out immediately, because basically what this would allow you is to align yourself at the exact same turn as the Incinerate ends for the opponent, which would then basically allow you to sneak in your fast move against their charge move, and you basically just get 2 free fast moves onto your lead, which would be very, very decent for Meganium in general, so that would be what I would recommend you. But here we're gonna see actually something funny. The opponent's Empoleon is going to decide, of course, to go for a charge move, but I will be able to just get so much energy that I can reach the Earthquake against the Skeledirge, and this is the cool thing about Meganium. Earthquake coverage is great. Sadly, it got nerfed recently, so it's not as great anymore. But in comes now also the Gallade. They had to go for a close combat, but this is not a close combat, and so we will be able to win this game just with the Meganium here, which is absolutely wild. Let's move on to the next opponent. Moving on, we're going to see a Vigoroth. A Vigoroth is a very, very tricky for this team, but luckily the opponent decided to, yeah, we're just gonna swap out here, that's totally fine. I will take this, as the lead of the Vigoroth is really tricky, because our Sasop is running Shadow Claw, making it a little bit tricky to play in general, and if the opponent shields up basically the charge move from my lead, I usually just stay in and let them throw on Body Slam and then throw my Frenzy Plant. It's still not going to be in range for the Feraligatr, which is really, really bad. But here, we will be able to reach 2 Blast Burns, which is kind of nice as well, and we can get them a little bit lower. Of course, now they have a ton of energy, but we still have a shield advantage, and I will take the shield advantage for my Feraligatr. I'm not going to decide to use a shield here at all. I'm just going to let this move go through. I should still be able to swipe it, and let's see if they're going to swap out or not. They decide to swap out into a Goodra. Goodra is a little bit of a trickier Pokemon to deal with for this team as well. Of course, Dragon-type Pokemon are just a little bit rough, but they decide to go for the awkward here, so there's no reason for me to use a shield here. That's going to be resisted, still going to chunk quite a bit, but I can overfarm by quite a bit as well. And so Hydro Cannon is going to take out the Goodra, and I can just reach another Hydro Cannon, which is going to easily be able to knock them out. And so we will be able to win this game. Moving on, we're going to have a Trevenant in the lead. That's actually kind of okay for our backline as well, because we have the Feraligatr. I thought of going for the Hydro Cannon instead, because Hydro Cannon would allow us to deny the opponent's fast move then later on, but now they denied ours. But it's actually a CMP tie, which should have not happened, which is kind of mad, which does not really matter because they use a shield anyway, but yeah, that's kind of weird. Here the opponent swaps out into the Machamp, which is going to be pretty bad for us. And so I'm going to decide to go into my Meganium. And what I was hoping here is that the opponent is going to go for the cross chop here, still let me survive this, still let me go for the Frenzy Plant, shield this move up, and I can farm them down with the Typhlosion. This was my plan, and it is actually kind of working out, but of course I can still reach another charge move here, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. We can see what they have in the back. It's going to be a Gligar, and the opponent swapping here into the Trevenant is going to be really, really difficult for us. We have to completely undercharge it, but even like this, there's no real way for me to win this game. I can still go for a Blast Burn. But yeah, great play by the opponent. I don't know if there was something that I could have done really different here either, though. They can still go for a charge move, which is going to knock us out, but let's see. Maybe we can still farm down. It's going to be really, really close, and we die by 1 HP. Moving on, we're going to have another horrible lead, one of the worst possible, as Dragonite is even going to be worse than other Dragon-type Pokemon, as it double resists every move from our Meganium. And so, yeah, this is not something that you really want to be in. Here we're gonna get out the opponent's Venusaur, going to not really be way better for us either, but at least we're gonna be able to get a shield. And now we see something interesting. The opponent underestimated the Typhlosion damage, and so we were able to just knock them out before they can go for a charge move. And so in comes a Skeledirge, again a Pokemon that I don't want to face with this team. This is going to be very, very tricky for us. We can still go for the Blast, but look at the damage output of Typhlosion. Typhlosion. This Pokemon is just going to town, disarming voice coming in comes also the Dragonite. I'm forced to use a shield here, of course, and I'm forced to try to basically get rid of them. And something that I did not notice at this point, somehow the Skeledirge went down. Like, the Skeledirge is not there anymore, and I felt like it still was like surviving with like a few HP in the back, and so I kind of played around it as well. But yeah, the opponent can still go for a charge move here. It does not knock me out, and I still try to go for the Frenzy Plant, which I think does more damage than the Earthquake, especially after the recent nerf of it. But as you're gonna see here, they can still go for the knockout, and so we're going to lose this game. Good game to the opponent. Or do we? Typhlosion is coming in clutch again. Moving on to the next opponent, why not just start off again with another Dragon-type Pokemon? Honestly, the amount of Dragon-type Pokemon that currently are lurking around is a little bit annoying, I have to say. It's a little bit annoying for at least those teams, but yeah, Dragon is the new meta. And I would imagine that there is going to be a shift very, very soon to a lot of charm in the Open Great League. Why is that so? Because Wigglytuff is beating Dragon-type Pokemon, of course, but also Annihilate and Gallade are very, very commonly used. But also, Feraligatr is commonly used, and if you saw the video that I did yesterday about Quagsire, they already had also the Wigglytuff in there, and basically Feraligatr plus Dragon-type Core, which is basically everywhere, is getting beat by the Wigglytuff fairly easily, which makes this Pokemon very good in the current meta. Here we're gonna see a huge mistake by the opponent. They actually let the Typhlosion go for a charge move here, and they didn't use a shield. And that is wild, because as you're gonna see here, we can still reach another Incinerate, and we're gonna be able to do a ton of damage against them, and we can even reach another one, or we can go for the Blast Burn. Why do we go for the Blast Burn? Because we have to hope that we can still reach 2 charge moves in time with a Meganium, and we will be able to. As you can see here, the first one's coming through, we already have the other one stored, and it's a CMP tie-in, so we can win this game, even though we got completely hardwalled again. Moving on to the next opponent, Clodsire lead. This Pokemon is a nightmare for me. Like, this Pokemon is really difficult for this team in general, because it beats the lead and it beats the Pokemon in the back. This was one of my earlier games again, I think, and yeah, we're gonna see how this is gonna go. I actually don't know how this is gonna go, by the way, but you're gonna see the Cresselia coming in. Issue for Cresselia, of course, is that they can just basically get a shield advantage no matter what. We're always going to be able to win this matchup, I think, but they're always going to be able to get a shield advantage. And they gotta go back into the Clodsire, and I make a crucial mistake. At this point, I think I will decide to go for a shield, which is not really the biggest issue, but the opponent is over-farming by quite a bit with their Clodsire, which I did not really know, because like Clodsire is like so difficult to kind of counter, I feel like, especially after like such a long time. But basically, I was hoping that I can get 2 fast moves off my Typhlosion and then swap out. I don't even get 2 fast moves off. Like, usually that would be a safe play to go for, but it is not a safe play, as they can go for the Earthquake, and so sadly, our Meganium is going to now end up against the opponent's Clodsire. But what we could have done is, we could have went straight into the Meganium, we could have went for 1 Frenzy Plant most likely, and put them perfectly into farm down range for the Typhlosion. Would have allowed us to farm down, would have allowed us to get to 1 Blast Burn against the opponent's Registeel, which would one-shot, but we didn't, and so sadly we're going to lose this game because of this decision. And yeah, maybe I still would have lost, who knows, but I feel like there was a chance of winning this game for sure. Moving on, we're going to have another Vigoroth lead here. Again, a Pokemon I just don't really enjoy to battle, but let's see how this is going to go. The opponent goes for the Body Slam, and I can go for the Frenzy Plant. This is going to be one of the newer games again. Let's see how that's gonna go. We can go for the Frenzy Plant and do a ton of damage against them. And we see here we swap into the Vigoroth, not into the Vigoroth, into the Feraligatr, of course, against the Vigoroth. But as you can see, the opponent is gonna swap into the Jellicent. And we can go for the Crunch, which is going to be great, as we're gonna get the defense drop as well, which is coming in clutch, because they cannot go for a Shadow Ball. This is a Seraph. I don't have to shield anything here. And so we can go for the full farm down. They're gonna go back into the Vigoroth, allowing me to get even more farm, and they have in the back the Gligar. I want to swap out here though, because I could go straight for the next Hydro Cannon, which would force the final shield, but this would also give them a little bit more energy, because they would get a free fast move in. I don't want to allow this. I know that I wouldn't see CMP tie later on, and so I swapped out immediately into the Typhlosion, get off a charge move. I want to try to get off another charge move here as well. Let's see if we can do this. The opponent goes for the Dig, which is fine. And I can go for another charge move, which is going to be another Dig. So they're going to be energy dry. I can go for the Hydro Cannon, and this is going to be it for this one. Bye bye there, and we can move on to the next opponent. Honestly, it feels like we basically lost every lead here today, but we're going to have here the Feraligatr, which is going to be a great answer for both the Trevenant as well as the Frostless, and so we can just go for a crunch, but honestly, I kinda really want to try to sweep with Typhlosion again. And so what we're going to try to do here is we're going to go ahead and go for the Hydro Cannon. Let's see what the opponent tries to do here as well. Gonna try to force the shield from the opponent, which I can do. And so they're gonna go for the Seed Bomb. I let this move go through. This allows me to have a shield advantage and one energy advantage on my Typhlosion, and there's basically no Pokemon that can really deal with that, other than maybe something like a Carbink or something like this. Why do we have to face this Pokemon immediately? Maybe because they didn't try to go for the Solar Beam, but I decided to swap out here, and honestly, I could have also decided to just go ahead and let this move go through and try to farm down and then go for a Solar Beam, but I was not sure if this would actually KO. So I kind of decided to go for the safe play of shielding basically my Meganium there. Again, in hindsight, I mostly would have rather went for a no shield and then tried to farm them down and go for a Solar Beam. I think it would have been enough, it should have been enough. But yeah, we will never know. Kinda actually disappointed myself now, but it doesn't really matter, we can win this game. And so, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and I'll see you later for some top team videos as well. So, see you then, bye bye.